Okay, we are live. Try this again. Friday the 13th, 2024. 9/13/2024. And we were talking about Ohio as ground zero for the next civil war. The meaning of the what has been interpreted as anti-immigrant rhetoric from J.D. Vance and Trump, and how that connects to the 42-mile stretch between Butler, Pennsylvania, where Trump got his head wound, and East Palestine, Ohio, where you had the toxic airborne event foreshadowed in white noise, seeming to indicate a bigger picture here regarding the role of Ohio, the state slogan being the heart of it all. So we were unpacking that, and the volume was very low for some reason. So I went ahead and I went to my settings and I found it was at 89. And while I had the stream down, security knocked on the door because my lights were on. And so I went out there, we're just chatting, and he suggested I not park on that side anymore because the people from Breaking Bad, which is what we call the RV out back, are now sleeping on the sidewalk. And it's kind of a rough spot just in that little corner. Just some friendly advice. But yeah, I did leave my headlights on. And then I came back in, and my laptop had charged enough, so I do have the encoder on, and we're firing on all cylinders. We're back on audio, so tune in, Paranormal Radio, Radio Net, Radio King. We're live on all. And the other night, I think we crossed 300. I don't have the exact numbers for all these audio streams, but we easily crossed 300 live. And I think we can get that up to 500 if I put a little bit more work into it. Anyway, thanks for the constructive feedback, all those who are mentioning the shift in audio. Very Friday the 13th-ish. We had the computer down, headlights on, mic low. It seems like some kind of wave of luck, but it seemed to have been countered. Because the security guard had to go look up Infinite Plane Media and figure out, who was in the truck. I mean, this person has never been down the hallway, and my door isn't labeled, so I heard him knocking on doors. I'm the only one here. I need to get a sign for the door. Maybe get a penguin. All right, Mango Penguin says, Happy Friday the 13th. What did everybody do today for Friday the 13th? I painted Jason Voorhees. Did a live stream earlier. And I started the day by watching Beetlejuice. And despite what a lot of the critics are saying, I think it's actually funnier than the first one for a lot of reasons, in different ways. And there are some scenes in there that alone are worth the price of the ticket. I won't offer any spoilers here. And the theaters here are really nice, as in you get this recliner and a table, and everything's very spaced out. You're not crammed up next to anybody. When I go to some of these big theaters here, like the one with the 24 screens, and I'm the only person, I feel like there was a pandemic. And maybe we're wrong about this. Maybe both sides were right. Maybe there's a pandemic and Bill Gates took out a huge chunk. Because where is everybody? Well, the truth is they're in their home FEMA camps, which have been made more comfortable than what the theaters can compete with. When I was outside, I took a picture of some movie posters because our contention is that concerted messaging is being sent from multiple platforms. It's all uniform. That there are no coincidences on the world stage with regard to what's being propagandized, what is mainstreamed. Like the day Trump gets shot, you go to the movies, there's a big bloody ear. It says, "Thine ears shall bleed." And then there's President Harrison Ford getting shot at. So many examples. We talk about this all the time. Multiple examples of concurrent programming with the Trump assassination, hundreds of predictive programming. So today I'm looking at the poster for Beetlejuice, not reading too much into it, although you could make the 9624 into a 666 if you wanted. But the intimation here is that the third Beetlejuice is the one you have to say, and then you invoke the demon. Next to it is the movie poster for Speak No Evil, with the sign of silence over his lips. So you can kind of see there's a connection here, at least in theme. Don't say the words, speak no evil. But another interesting point here, and the reason I took a photo of this is to remind me that the director of Speak No Evil says that his movie is based on Andrew Tate, that his character is Andrew Tate. Speak No Evil star James McAvoy and director James Watkins break down the ending. And there's an article on TMZ where he says that he's quite literally based on Andrew Tate. Who is this? I guess the character is some kind of misogynistic character. But the significance of it, and here's where he talks about it, his performance was inspired by Andrew Tate. The significance of it is that right now, as we speak, Andrew Tate is facing what appears to be an insurmountable legal issue involving human trafficking, among other things. Let me go ahead and play a clip here.
Him sort of compare the character to Andrew Tate and that sort of level of person. I was just wondering, like, was that sort of a conscious blueprint when you were writing, or is that something James just brought to the table?
We discussed various versions of toxic masculinity, both in public discourse and in the political world.
Okay, toxic masculinity, which is something that Andrew Tate embodies in a very Poeistic fashion, as in parody of extremism, Poe. He's a Poe. Poe's Law, which has to do with any parody that is so good that it's indistinguishable from the real thing is a Poe. Like, oh, he's faking it. Like, McToon accused me of being a Poe, that this is just a parody of something. No. Now, Andrew Tate is a perfect Poe for what he's almost like a caricature. He's been compared visually to Cypher, the sellout, the guy who sells his soul to the Matrix. And if anybody could be described as having this role of fighting the Matrix, but they're actually loving it, it would be Andrew Tate. And his brother. And I was kind of thinking, actually, I was doing some memes of these characters are so insane. Like these two, they remind me of, I don't know. I hate to speculate, but I'm curious as to where this story goes. But I think he's mostly a construct, playing both sides, good and evil. Like on the one hand, he's talking about the elite and how they're all predators and traffickers, and then he's also doing it. And it's interesting, too, that the QAnons are all lining up behind Sound of Freedom, Tim Ballard, Save the Children, but they're also lined up behind Andrew Tate. They don't see the contradiction. And I think that he's constructed for the purpose of tearing him down. So he's always talking about chess. He teaches his followers at Tate University to be chess players. And the idea of the chess, I think, also ties into his father, who is a master world-class chess player, and also CIA. So the son of a CIA agent who's told that media is fake. And the chess game symbolism here is all about playing both sides, in my opinion. So I think Andrew Tate played one side to take it down. I'm convinced Elon Musk is a fall guy for free speech, and his alt-right persona is a LARP. It's a Poe. He's also a Poe. Pope Elon is a Poe, a parody of alt-right fringe politics, this edgelord meme stuff, and it's designed to make the public decide we must take this institution or this concept down. So Andrew Tate is an attack on masculinity by representing this construct of toxic masculinity. Elon Musk is an attack on free speech while pretending to be a free speech absolutist. In my opinion, I would suspect that Musk's politics are identical to those of Grimes. I think Musk has the same politics as The View, like far left, woke Antifa. And this is, I think, indicated by a couple of things. Mainly, I mean, just on the face of it, everything he's saying is a cue card in front of his face for all intents and purposes. Everything he tweets has to be. He's one of the most meta-scripted characters on the world stage. There's no leeway here for autonomy. I mean, that's kind of... We're past that point. Let's not attribute autonomy to any of these individuals. Okay, let me go through your comments. Ted Stryker says, the Friday the 13th series was better than any movie with Jason. I don't think I've seen much of the series, but I vaguely recall. And I mentioned slasher killers the other day because somebody brought up Halloween. And I was thinking about how the slasher killer era coincided with serial killers. The public no longer has attention spans for serial killers. Now it's all mass shooters. The whole story happens in one day. It's not dragged out. And it seems like we enter the mass shooting generation, and you have the proliferation of mass shooting or first-person shooter games. You know, a first-person shooter game, and there's so many of them. It's basically mass shooter training, kind of like Grand Theft Auto teaches you how to be a Democrat. And these games are all very much part of the predictive and concurrent programming. So if you want the public to believe in serial killers, you frighten them with movies about serial killers. If you want the public to think that there are angry people with guns ready to shoot up malls and schools, you flood the zone with media that supports this. And first-person shooters, I think, are a huge part of the propaganda matrix. Just like all the science fiction programming on Netflix. Jimbo Akimbo says, volume much better. Lesko says, volume is back. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. A lot of times we've accused people of trolling because we have been trolled. Like, this is an old trick. You go into a live stream and you say, I can't hear anything. And it throws some people off. Or some people, if you have 3 or 4 people saying it, and people will troll in groups, hey, it keeps buffering, can't understand it, why is it clipping? You can really mess with somebody. So we kind of, at a rule, we auto-hoax these claims. You say my volume's low, let's wait and see what the consensus says. But in this case, it came from a trusted source. But maybe somebody came in here and unplugged the computer or shorted that outlet and then screwed up my volume. It feels very gremlin-y. Let's Go says Beetlejuice was great, loved it. Yeah, I don't want to offer any spoilers, but I do think there are certain scenes that alone are worth it. And I watched the first one before. I watched it over the course of last couple of days, and so I have a pretty good basis for comparison. And I have zero complaints, really. I think Tim Burton's a genius. I think the whole concept, whoever created Beetlejuice, very well researched. I like the whole Saturn thing. It's very intriguing. Okay, let's continue here. Matt X says, found footage horror came after Columbine. Grainy CCTV killers. So Columbine, Littleton, is really like the starting point for this mass shooting pandemic. And that happened shortly after The Matrix came out. And there were immediate comparisons between the wardrobe of the characters in The Matrix and the Columbine shooters. And then you had Marilyn Manson dragged into the conversation because of one of his songs. You had a few other bands, but Manson being involved in it is also very intriguing because you find a lot of his work seems to be metascripty. We've talked a bit about that before, but the Littleton shooters were brought up again recently last year when we first started talking about the rage virus. You had that guy named Richard Card shooting up a bowling alley, and you had this picture of a eyewitness, a young crisis actress, holding a bowling ball that looked like a globe, and she's just talking about how she was so scared. But this was a character they said was radicalized on Twitter. He fell into a Twitter bubble and then ran out with a gun. And I remember looking at this whole story and the symbol, the bowling alley, the bowling ball, and it reminded me of Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine. And we found some interesting connections between the two. In fact, let me bring up that cover. So if you haven't seen it, the cover for Bowling for Columbine has Michael Moore holding a globe-like bowling ball. And then let me bring up Richard Card. And this was in Maine, by the way. And it was in Lewiston. So I called it Bowling for Lewiston, the live stream at the time. And I always pay attention to the photography, the images, and the headlines that they show you at first, what they blast out there when they're creating their initial impressions. But yeah, this bowling alley shooting involved an eyewitness who, in some of the photography, and I'll see if I can pull it up real quick here, is pictured holding a bowling ball just like the one that our friend Michael Moore was carrying, and I'm thinking that's interesting. Some kind of connection here. What is it? And all of these various events take place in the same fictional universe, meaning they all reference one another. Audrey Hale referenced the Columbine shooters last week. They released her manifesto, and in it she said that she wanted to make the Columbine shooters proud. Personally, I mean, the whole Columbine thing was a hoax and a psyop. I happen to think that their names, like Eric Harris, Dylan Klebold, those are also significant. You got Dylan Roof, Dylan Klebold. These are all, again, integrated. But I think that Trey Parker and Matt Stone may have played those roles. Have any of you looked into that? Ifepe says, hey, the mic is loud. Yes, thank you for letting me know. Yeah, for some reason it got cranked down. So tonight's topics, again, we're talking about Ohio. So let me get back to this briefly. And this is a comment that I saw from Mike Rothschild. He says, they're trying to turn Springfield into the flashpoint for the race war they can blame on Harris, and then point to themselves as the solution. Since Trump has no legal power, he's getting his cult to do the dirty work. It's like January 6th meets the Kishinev pogrom. So that's Mike Rothschild. And Ohio, again, has special significance in this PSYOP. And he's talking about a massacre in which 49... This is an Easter massacre in 1903. Odd comparison. But he's talking about a riot. He's comparing it to a riot that was led by priests, a frenzied, bloodthirsty mob. So Rothschild is suggesting, and the name really throws a lot of conspiracy theorists off because they think everybody with that name is one of them. It's like kind of a bit of, I think a lot of it is just fiction. But anyway, the point of it is, Ohio seems to be very significant right now. So Greg Sargent said, big news out of Springfield. The mayor has confirmed that the emailed bomb threat contained hateful language about immigrants. So that's the other point here. The other message here that we've been talking about today about Ohio. And notice it's emphasizing wrote on X. Vance wrote, don't let biased media shame you into not discussing the humanitarian crisis in Ohio. Then you have a bomb threat, evacuations from Springfield City Hall. Again, Vance spread the claim on X that Haitian immigrants were stealing and eating pets. And we looked into this, the goose, the cats, all these stories. If you look at it objectively, this is just pieced together, a lot of rumor mongering, but there's nothing real to substantiate it. Not that I've seen yet, but it does seem to be a tactic. You know, it's just simple demagoguery. Yesterday we talked about the Boeing. Get back to that in a minute here. Infinite Plane Radio. Hey, what's up?
What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up? Oh, I caught you earlier today and told you to call in. What were we talking? Ohio. Ohio's really big right now. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. If you watch one news channel, they will swear that it's not happening. You watch another channel, they say it's totally happening. And I mean, I've seen videos, like weird videos, but like we live in 2024. So there's really no way to really know what's happening. Like all this could be fake. I don't believe it. I think there are probably people eating cats and dogs and all kinds of weird shit. We're letting everybody into our country. Here's what I really think is happening, is that somebody is trying to destroy nationalism for any country. It doesn't have to be America. You could be in China. There are people and entities that don't like the idea of individual national states and the plane, the planet, whatever realm we're in. There's people that don't like that. They just want some kind of like universal government, and I don't like it. It bothers me. I don't even like the national government. I think we should break apart into like 4 or 5 countries. Since the cultures are so different from this part, from that part, I don't even see any benefit in us being a unified country.
I see. Well, I don't think that people should be mean to pets. People shouldn't steal pets, and we have to obey laws about game harvesting. But I think right now we're looking at a propaganda war. And my take on this has been that the people on the right side of the divide are easily just taking, they're too easily taking the bait.
I want to get rid of everybody. Like, if you're not if you're just not from here, you could be from anywhere. You could be born here, but if you don't like this place, if you hate America, if you hate American history, George Washington, Christopher Columbus, you're like, oh, all our roots are racist and evil.
Well, wait.
Pick
Christopher
a place
Columbus.
in the world,
Christopher Columbus wasn't
like
American.
pick a place in the world that isn't evil. Like every part of the world, some sin exists. Somebody hurt somebody for greed or for some weird reason. So America's no different.
Whatever happened, though,
So for all the
I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend your right to say it. Shouldn't somebody have the right to burn a flag and say, I don't like this place and I hate its values? Isn't that protected speech?
If it were up to me, I mean, I'm not the king of America, but I would ask every person that lives here, do you love this place? Do you defend this place? I was in the military, so were you, right? Do you love this place? Would you defend this place? Do you believe in our history, our culture, all that shit?
Well,
If not,
get
the fuck out.
But the thing is, whose history? The history as told by people leaning right or people leaning left? Because there are two different versions.
Who built this place? Do you think like weirdo leftists fought and killed
okay,
and
let me
died?
ask you a question.
Killed Indians?
Okay, when did this
I don't
place start?
believe it.
When did America start? 1619 or 1776?
I mean, what do you really consider America? Like when we formed the Declaration of Independence, or when did Europeans first start coming here?
See,
But if you
it's
think
a valid
like the
question.
fact,
It's a valid question, but the thing is, right now, the left is advancing this narrative that if we're not inclusive of the years preceding 1776, beginning with the transatlantic slave trade, then we're not telling the full picture. And so there's this competing worldview.
Full story. I appreciate all that. But if you shit all over like the fact that Europeans came here, and there's a whole cross section of people that don't even think we should ever even come here. So I don't argue with those people. My first question to you is, are you happy that we're here? Are you happy that there's a place called America? Are we evil just for even being here? Yes. There's a whole bunch of people, 50% of the people in this country who would say there shouldn't even be a place called America. We're all evil. We should just all give it back to the Indians and go back to where we came from. I don't argue with those people. They're retarded.
Well,
You have no voice.
I have a huge issue or problem understanding things like collective guilt and yeah, arguments from history. I kind of, again, from our perspective, media becomes history
Like,
long
pick
term.
a place in the world where this didn't happen. Pick a part of the world where slavery and violence
Well, hey,
and
I'm not
war
here to defend
Show
the.
show me the place in the world where nobody killed nobody and it was just hunky dory.
Hey, let me read a comment here. Esteban says, "Whenever I hear people discuss history, I know I'm listening to crazy. We know nothing about history. Stop selling crazy like you're an authority of the past. It makes you sound stupid."
Sure.
And so that's
We don't
what I'm
even
saying.
know what kind
No,
of
but
plane or planet we're
what
on.
I'm pointing
So
out here is
everything
we
could be
have
thrown out the window.
we have two competing versions though, and so I'm not gonna. I take the anti position and the anti pro. I don't say, oh, the country, we can attribute everything to what the history books say, but we got to include this event and everything subsequent. Nor do I ascribe to the other side. I treat history the way I treat media, and history is simply lies agreed upon. Same with media, and so like I can't just uncritically cite history as though it's a source and say I know it was this way. So
should we let people live here that hate this place? Should you be allowed to be here if you're just like, fuck the whole system, let's burn it down? Are you an enemy of America or are you a friend of America? If you're an enemy of America, I would deport your ass ASAP.
What about?
I don't care
What about?
if you were born here. If you were born here, I would refund your fucking Social Security and you would never be allowed to come back. If you hate this place, you're an enemy of America. Get the fuck out.
There are a lot of people that hate this place or grew up hating this place and they change
Get
later.
out.
But
You can't be here.
what
would China do to you?
Is that
They would
American?
fucking execute
Is that very?
You would be fast tracked to the gas chamber if you lived in China and said, fuck this place. I don't want to kill you. I don't want to burn you. Just get the fuck out. You can't live here. You're an enemy of this country. you can't be here. If you don't love it, if you don't love American history, Christopher Columbus, and all the bullshit that we've been fed from the beginning of time, if you say it's a shitty story and I don't believe it and it's all racist, and here's what really burns my ass is that it's that we're all held responsible. Like I'm at fault for the shit that happened 200 years ago. That's why I'm pissed off, and I have no sympathy for any of these people. It's not like I'm just some racist and I hate the whole fucking world. I just don't want to hear anybody complaining about shit that I had no part in.
John the plumber, we got it. But anyway, I think I'm looking at the chat here. A lot of people are saying potty mouth. No offense. Different.
Probably most of them are diehard libs and hate America, and they're just like burn it all down.
But look,
fucking,
are you anti-lib?
I mean, like on certain levels, I have like a live and let live mentality on certain issues. But most of them, if you're anti-traditional America, you're like just burn it all down. Fuck off. I won't argue with you. Here's your passport. Get the fuck out.
Because I'm at the point here where I look at this traditional, idealized past MAGA vision of America as just a mirror version of progressive utopianism, and I kind of don't agree with that either. I don't like the direction it's going, and I don't like its thought leaders, and it's driven by people.
In a way, I kind of hope it all breaks down, because whatever comes next, you think like the Inquisition, like the Spanish Inquisition was bad. Wait till you see what comes next.
Hey, I got a question.
Because I believe, honestly, I think the people that are in control, the people that are in control of the world really want to see this happen. That's just my interpretation. So that, like, they've done everything to conjure feelings in the average American, the average person that's like worked their balls off their entire life to get somewhere, and like now we're just being flooded with like all these people that
is that even true?
It doesn't matter that they're foreign. We don't care that they're foreign, but as soon as they get here, they shit all over the country.
Look, I don't know. Look, it sounds to me. It sounds to me.
They don't say I'm glad to be here.
I'm sorry. It sounds. I'm sorry. I'm not woke. I don't have a lot of tolerance for wokeism, and wokeism is on the right and left. So like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not at all concerned about this red pill propaganda. No thanks. I'm sorry. I can only handle so much of it. If I wanted that, I'd listen to Stu Peters. Again, I have no reason to believe any of the extreme claims of the far right or the far left. I'm just like, at this point, we should be past this. John is in the box on the issue of immigration. If you think that there is a problem, then you're going to be led to the solution. It's problem, reaction, solution. It's a Hegelian dialectic. And you have every right to hate the country, to express disdain for how it's run, its leadership. You go to the army, you swear to defend the Constitution. I think you're defending free speech, free expression, which includes the right to burn flags. And the idea that you throw people out because they don't agree, I'm not a fascist. I'm not trying to control people's thoughts. And if anything, a lot of these people who espouse these views, like I'm talking about the big pundits and politicians, we have to remember that they're all in the box. They all believe in the Psy-War, which makes them weapons of it. And so we're doing media deconstruction. And another point too, and I have an article here. I wrote this recently about rage and being trolled, and about how if they can troll you, they can control you. And they don't control me. I'm not triggered. I live in a sanctuary city. I'm not even slightly worried about immigrants or extraterrestrials. I don't believe in aliens or demonic aliens. If they can trigger you, they can control you. Autohoaxology Axiom 38. Mass media psyops are designed to trigger reactions in those appropriately saturated with predictive programming. Don't feed the trolls. The mass media is trolling for reactions. And I posted this to make the point that we can spell the word control now with 2 L's. Because we're talking about baiting people. And if you're triggered, you took the bait. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, Tim, this is Nick Finger.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I haven't caught you live lately, but I've been listening to all the shows the next day, and I had just made a couple notes of things I wanted to bring up. One of them, that SpaceX fake spacewalk the other day, yesterday, whenever that was. Um, that was on the same date as the Gemini first spacewalk. Did you know that?
Okay, it's funny that you say that because I was looking at this terrible production and I was looking for the Gemini spacewalk specifically because it looked like they used the same special effects, decades old. And this is where you have this like,
It looked,
you see that? I'm going to bring that up. Thanks for bringing this up. Go on.
yeah. There's a flat Earth channel, DC Force, that he just always posts like little, kind of meme things, and it showed like shots from the Gemini one compared to shots from that one yesterday or whenever it was, and very, very similar. Let's see, the other thing, on 9/11, I was listening to this Jim Fetzer interview, and what do you think? Like, I'm totally on board that 9/11 was all a movie, but I hear you talk about CGI all the time. But he's all about the holographic planes,
Oh,
and I
yes.
just wanted to get your take on, just what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because the idea that they're holographic planes is used to give cover to the witnesses, who are all agents in place, plants, crisis actors. So instead of going with Occam's razor, what's more likely? Holographic planes or the people who saw the planes are lying? You should say they're lying because we don't know of any holograms of that sophistication to exist. So then I'm thinking that
Yeah.
Fetzer, like many
I
people,
hear that he references I don't remember the guy's name, but I've heard him talk about this in other interviews too. How there's this one specific researcher who took, I think he said like 27 different videos of of leading up to the second tower, and did like all these, I don't know if it's AutoCAD or what, but where he was trying to place where the plane actually was, and then he compared that to radar information and saying that there was a plane, but it was 1,200 feet to the side of where everybody saw it.
oh, interesting.
So that's kind of a reification of the false witnesses kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one other point here too is that what they do is they present something on TV that has got some pre-produced elements, and then they later merge the two with the eyewitnesses. So the role of the eyewitnesses is to say, I saw this. So you don't really see what connects the two frames, and they bridge that gap. And so I think that they really want to keep it out of your mind that you'd have all these false witnesses that are planted out there. And so the idea of the hologram kind of gives them cover. And another thing, too, is the idea that people died. A lot of the people are still stuck on that. And as long as you're stuck on that, you're never going to figure it out. What is Fetzer's most recent take on that? Did he say anything?
I think that he thinks that people died, but
Yeah.
I also heard him. It seems like that he referenced. You know what? I'm not sure. I'm not positive. I don't want to speak one way or the other.
Here's why I ask.
The guy that he was interviewing with definitely thought that people died.
Because if you're going to say the planes are holograms, if the planes aren't really there, then you have to subtract from the death toll. Same thing with Shanksville.
I did hear him say certain things that sounded like, the whole thing was a hoax. I mean, I think that I don't know. I don't want to speak for him.
Sure, I get it. I
Okay,
get
and
it.
then one other topic that I wanted to just hear your take on, and it's kind of unrelated. Do you think Nathan Reynolds believes what he's saying, or do you think that he's an actor?
Could you fill me in on who this person is?
Oh, okay. He's like, so he's like ancillary to. I think he spoke at one of the big Flat Earth conferences. I just recently ran across him, but it seems like that he was somebody. I've heard a lot of other people speak about him and just kind of write him off as a crazy person. But his story, his claim is that he's from the Reynolds family, the Bacco family, and that he was subjected to a lot of ritualized abuse as a child, and
Okay. I see his name
he
here.
turned away from all of that.
Right. This guy was snatched from the flames. He was a speaker at the conference.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't read his specific story, but I recall.
He speaks with a lot of conviction, and he's very knowledgeable on a lot of topics. I figured it was somebody that you probably would have come across.
Well, the
in
thing
the
is,
past, but
all these Flat Earth Conference speakers were highly suspect to me because we had found that there was a tight-knit group at the top, and what they had in common is connections to feds, police agencies. Intel. One of the guys was doing intel for Denver police, and then you had more than half a dozen sex offenders, and they're all connected, making movies together and running these conferences. And one of the individuals was so close to Jimmy Kimmel's sister, they were like dating or something seriously. So I just saw that whole group as cherry-picked agents and plants. I didn't know if anyone there was genuine. And they really tried hard to keep us out of the conference. So we showed up with Mad Mike, and he just brought his big missile in there. He brought his rocket. They couldn't stop him. But we were at this point, I was just thinking, anybody in the Flat Earth Conference is questionable. And after we examined every one of these characters, things came out, and it was just insane. It was like the guy, Authentic Intent, actually was interviewed by Daily Beast, and this guy's a parolee who went after minors. And it's like, why do we have representations of flat earthers always being just totally shady or connected to really bad things? So I haven't looked into him, but you piqued my interest.
yeah, he. Are you familiar with the YouTube channel Mindshock?
Yes.
The guy that does like the logical analysis on debates and all kinds of other stuff like that. Yeah, that's where I first heard Nathan Reynolds speak. Was he was Mindshock was trying to just do an analysis on Nathan Reynolds, because somebody suggested. He's like, check out this interview. It's like the craziest stuff you've ever heard. And like, he wraps up all interdimensional Bigfoot, shapeshifters, like underground bases, like all this crazy stuff, like in very short spans of time, as if it's nothing. And
Well,
so, like,
I do know that these conferences are hotbeds for limited hangout operatives, where they basically have these pitchmen for various conspiracy theories. Like, you had one lady came out to talk about the Paradise Fires and direct energy weapons. And all these people, I think, are operatives who are spreading specific targeted memes. And they're just there to be ground zero for some new idea, some mythology they're creating. But I'll have to look into it, because I do find anybody associated with these conference movements, like the Flat Earth movement, to be questionable.
I mean, I heard that he only spoke at one of them one time, and that his whole thing had nothing to do with Flat Earth.
Okay, well, that's possible. I'll look into it because if he had a separate body of content before, then maybe he was just a speaker. So I'll take a look. Again, the whole flat Earth movement built around a Bible-based model is pretty much kind of a closed circle of individuals. But the question itself to me is valid. By the way, I don't think the flat Earth
Yeah,
models are valid, but the question is valid.
right. I mean, I've seen the beach on islands that are 11 miles away and looked through binoculars and seen people at the beach, and there should be, you know, over 40 feet of water in between us.
Right.
So, I mean,
I'm puzzled by one thing where I can see clearly 110 miles to this certain peak to the west, and I can see clouds beyond it when it gets near sunset. I can clearly see this tree of or this forest of these windmills that are reflecting the sun, but they're a long distance away. But then I look at the clouds, and the clouds that are much further than the mountain aren't curving down. And I'm just kind of thinking,
right.
why are the clouds just as level as the ones why are they just completely, to my view, flat, parallel? The clouds are flat. Chemtrails are flat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I live in Florida, and it is super flat here.
Well, I'm still looking at too when they give us evidence like this spacewalk. And did you notice how this Gemini imitation, how it was like a balloon, like how he was just floating and his arm was just dangling like a dead man?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was weird, and I mean, when there was the Red Bull jump, I mean, that capsule from the inside didn't look too different than this one.
Right. Yeah. Well, I also have another issue here. Is we're told, or we're shown this, and like, oh, look, he's seeing the ball Earth, but we're only seeing a small part of it. We're seeing him seeing the ball. This to me does not constitute evidence. This is secondhand because we have to imagine what he sees, and it's like, why don't we have a camera on his head so he can look around and show us the whole
Well, they
ball?
said that they did. They said that that they had helmet cams.
Well, I guess.
It's like, okay, the guy.
Well, I know, they showed
they're
it,
just not
but
showing us.
they're not doing a
Yeah.
360. Like they couldn't do a 360. Is kind of
Right.
the point.
Right, because it's the fourth wall.
Exactly, the fourth wall. That's what I'm thinking.
Uh,
Like, how do you know he's not staring at a giant screen?
yeah, I mean, exactly. You're preaching to the choir here.
But the imitation,
and
the Gemini thing, I didn't know it was the same day. That's also very intriguing. And I think the Gemini spacewalk was kind of stop motion animation that was kind of tied into it. But it looked so cheesy and fake. I couldn't believe they passed it off as real. And here we are, 6 decades later or so, and they haven't improved anything.
So the last time I called you, 2 or 3 months ago, I had mentioned this book called Chronic City, and which had a bunch of predictive programming kind of stuff in there. But like the main character, he was a childhood movie star, and just kind of lived a social life off of the royalties of that as an adult. And his girlfriend, who he believed in, was an astronaut on the space station, and like their love letters would always be like put in the newspaper and everything. And but she got stuck up there. Well, I mean, it turns out that the whole thing was fake, but like within the story, she gets stuck up there because I think that in the book it was like Chinese satellites or something like that was the reason why they were saying that the astronauts couldn't come down, and so she had to die in space. But then like later she found him and met him like at a museum or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it turned out, but But since I told you about that book the last time, there's been all this stuff with the astronauts being stuck up there.
Okay, I see where you're going. This is actually deep. So Chronic City is set in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and I had mentioned between the last, I think it was like last month or so, I mentioned that the Francis Ford Coppola movie Megaopolis is also New York. So Chronic City, Megaopolis, and in Chronic City it says here, trapped on the International Space Station by Chinese sabotage, and in Megaopolis, it's an old Russian satellite falling to the Earth. And at the same time that movie hit the film festivals, a Russian satellite exploded into 100 pieces, and everyone on the ISS had to duck for cover. So that's a parallel for sure.
Yeah. It turns out in this book, the guy that the main character has been buying his weed from is actually he was the one that, like, his whole indoor grow system and everything, it was like allegedly the system where they were growing food on the ISS, but he was really just, I mean, that's what, like, that technology was just like in this guy's apartment. He was growing weed in it.
It sounds pretty good. It says it's one of the top 10 books of 2009. Janice stranded in space behind Chinese space mines. So being trapped on the ISS. So when you read this, its full predictive programming value hadn't been realized yet. And that's what's interesting about all these things. It's like, wow, you have to wait and see.
Well, it had this whole other thing too, where they, which I feel like it predicted the start of NFTs, because like there were these people and they got obsessed with, I forget what they called them, if they were cauldrons or something. They had this specific name for these digital items that all these people wanted to buy, and people were paying these ridiculous amounts of money on eBay, and he didn't know what it was, but he stayed up trying to bid on it, and he got outbid at the last second, and he was finally at this big party where there was all these people that were like I guess we would call them some of the meta scripters and some of the meta actors, people on the world stage. They were at this big, mansion at this party, and he sees one of these things that he thinks is a thing, and it's like on display. It's basically kind of like if you were displaying an NFT in a digital frame, but it's like up at this high part where he can't get to it, and he takes all his time trying to get to it, and he finally touches it and realizes it's not even a real thing. And so that part was pretty crazy. And there was another part that I thought about when I was hearing all this 9/11 stuff a couple days ago.
Okay, wait, this is fascinating. This is like predictive programming. See, I remember when I first started working with Midjourney, I was thinking you could create a line of jewelry. I was creating these little steampunk penguin models, and you could advertise them on eBay off the photograph, and it's so believable. But what it says here is gorgeous vases that are only seen in pictures because nobody has ever seen the originals. And that's kind of almost a prediction about where we are now, how any artifact or object or person could be deep faked into reality, and nobody reality tests. So we've crossed that line. It's a deep fake.
Well, and there's this whole other subtext in the book that like the subplot in the book that's happening, where there's this all the newspapers and everything are talking about, there's this tiger, this dangerous tiger that got out of the zoo, and nobody sees a tiger, but like streets get torn up and like the subway gets trashed and all this kind of stuff, and it's like all just gets blamed on this tiger that escaped. And then there's this other thing that I forget if it was you talking about it or a different thing I was listening to a couple days ago. I think it was you that was talking about it. I mean, I've never been, like, I don't know exactly the layout of like the 9/11 memorial, but is there like a big hole there?
Yes, there's
a memorial.
The reflecting pool where the 33-year-old fell in last year. Yeah.
So in this book, there's this other thing where there's like this artist, this famous artist. He makes this giant hole in the ground, and nobody can see the bottom of it. But people like go there and throw stuff into it. So I thought that was kind of related to that.
Yeah, because what we've connected is Revelation 9:11 talks about the king over the bottomless pit. And this king over the bottomless pit theme has been connected to 9/11, the place where the Titanic is. It ties into a lot of the meta script, specifically around 9/11, but broadly around the theme of the sinking of America, the sinking of the West.
I wish that I still had a copy of that book. I need to go get another one. It was one of those books that when I read it, I got all excited about it, tried to share it with a couple other people, and gave it to someone and never saw it again. Don't even remember who I gave it to. But it's definitely one I plan on reading again.
Yeah, I may check this out.
You know,
I may check it out alongside. I want to watch Megaopolis because there's a parallel here. Megaopolis, Chronic City, both about New York, and the 9/11 stuff with Megaopolis is another thing as well. But the fact that they both have to do with the idea of space junk and the ISS and people taking cover on the ISS as the movie comes out showing space junk, it's just too perfectly aligned. Like these are meta scripters. These are meta scripted messages.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for the call, though. And was there anything else?
I think that's everything that I had written down in my notes.
Okay, we covered a lot of ground.
I got the autohoaxology book the other day in the mail. I've been reading that. Thanks for sending me the little penguin bookmark with it.
Oh,
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Well, thanks for getting the book. And soon, as in this month, we're going to have the first issue of The Insider, where I'll be taking a lot of these ideas and mobilizing them in a bigger way because what we're doing here is new and it hasn't been consolidated by design. We've jumped the guardrails. And so this book, Autohoaxology 101, is taking all of the best ideas of the think tank regarding media deconstruction and organizing it into a philosophic framework that can be shared. So that's why it had to come out. And so everybody carrying it is helping to build out this third branch of media, parallel media. So thanks for picking that up.
Yeah, thanks for everything you do. Keep up the good work. I think I lost my blue wrench, but I'm going to post something in the chat. Maybe I can get another one.
Yeah, I'll follow up and I'll hand one out. Thanks again. Have a great evening.
All right, thank you.
Excellent call. Fascinating connections. This is so intriguing here. Infinite Plane Radio.
Dude, this is Jurassic.
Oh, hey, what's up? Finally. I thought the first caller was you. I thought the first caller was you making a funny voice, but it was the John the Plumber. So anyway, I'm glad you got in.
Hey, man. First, let me just say this. One of your viewers in the chat, I don't know who hates me or something, but he's been asking me to unban him. First of all, let me just tell you something. To the guy who's asking me, I try to push your channel, but when I hit your channel, it doesn't take me anywhere and it doesn't say you're blocked. So what you're gonna have to do is go to one of my backup channels and put a comment there, and then I can go to your channel directly and unban you if you're banned, because I can't find your channel if I just type it into YouTube. So you need to go make a comment on my backup channel.
I know who you're talking about. He's blocked here, so I can't see him, but he's been crying about this for a long time, and he doesn't know.
Yeah.
You could just go into your YouTube account and create a sock. I have like 50 sock accounts. It takes 5 seconds. Make a sock that says Mike account number 2, and then just jump back in. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. Anyway, forget it. I just wanted to get that out of the way. It's not like I was ignoring him. But anyway,
I was.
I can't find his channel on YouTube.
I was ignoring him. Okay.
Anyway, he deserves it, but I still forgive him anyway. Keep going. I know he's going to troll me anyway when he finds my channel again. But look, listen, I know you have some questions for me, but I just want to ask this first. So I'm going to ask you, do you think Kamala's going to win? But before we get to that, So you know that I was telling everybody that when they came out with this cat story a couple of weeks back, before stupid Trump mentioned it in his debate, I was telling everybody I'm not biting the story. You know, with the Venezuelan gangs and the Hell's Angels and all. I told everybody I'm not doing the story because I know it's fake, and because I know they're just trying to make truthers look stupid, right?
Yes.
And do you agree with that?
100%. The Hell's Angels thing was a motorcycle rally in Durango. And truthers were like, the Hell's Angels are coming to rescue us from the Venezuelan gangs in Aurora. It's like, that's bad hopium, and it's non-critical thinking. So they were falling for that nonsense.
Yeah, and it's been 2 weeks, and they're still fucking driving. Oh, I said the F word, man. You know what? I just got off with my my crazy ex, and I'm already screaming and yelling at her, and I'm I just said the F word.
Oh,
Man,
that's fine. That's
it just
fine.
drives me nuts.
No, I
I'm talking
understand.
to the viewers who hear me, man. I just got off the phone with her. That's why I'm losing it. Anyway, listen. So those stupid Hell's Angels, they're still not there. It's like 2 weeks later. But anyway, the point I was trying to make was I was not going to jump on that bandwagon, right? And then when Trump mentioned it in the debate, that's when I knew what it was about. Okay, I knew because it's again to make Trump look stupid and to make it look like he's not going to win. So that's why now I'm coming to the question for you. So you actually think that Kamala is going to win the election?
I hate to think so, but my sole assessment is based on what they're putting in predictive programming. And I have 3 quick examples. But here's the thing. It's not like she wins and he loses. You have DMZ, where it's a civil war, and she's only boss of like half the country. Then you have the movie Civil War, where Trump's in the White House, but the Kamala character kills him. Then you have Fallout, where the Betty Pearson, the whole code there, it's all encoded where it's like, it's a coup. They steal the election, and there's blood on the side of Trump's head. So in all the predictive programming, it's like, get ready for Kamala Harris, but in every one of these movies, it's in the midst of a civil war. So it's kind of like maybe she is, but isn't, as in there's a split. It breaks the system or something.
Well, see, I can picture the creature being put in, but I don't think the creature's elected. See, that's what I'm saying. I believe that Trump wins the election, okay, and somehow they try to make it where he can't get into office, because that's the only logical explanation for there to be some type of civil war. Because if they don't get out of office, then you could see the Republicans fighting back, because the Republicans won't do nothing if Trump loses. What are they going to do? I mean, they're just going to sit back and just watch the show. So
yeah, I see. I think you're onto something here, because we're still awaiting this 8-4 thing, and everything we've seen since 7/13 has reiterated that that is the story. So I'm still waiting for that. And then it also had the 611 code, and you know, we talk about this. He was shot at 611. Well, the kid Colt Gray shoots a deer, smears blood on the right side of his face, and then his dad gets arrested. In the same article, they talk about it at 6:11 p.m. So we're still awaiting this entire scenario with this Trump final grand finale. But I don't know if it has to be the case that he wins the election for it to happen. And everything in the predictive programming says that Kamala is not just going to disappear without a civil war of some kind.
yeah, but if he loses, what I'm saying is, if he loses, how would he be able to get back in? Like, see, the only way he would be able to get into office with a coup or something would be if he was elected and they wouldn't let him in. Then somehow they make a mad rush and they, you know, all the people, then they just take over the Capitol and everything else, whatever. I don't know. But I'm saying if that was the scenario that they wanted. But how could Trump even get in if he's not even elected president? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. And I was referencing a movie called DMZ because, and this came out several years ago before there was even any talk of a possibility of a Kamala Harris president. A civil war breaks out in a futuristic America, and Manhattan becomes a demilitarized zone. but it makes it pretty clear that there's a contested situation here, and that there isn't really a leader. It's just sort of up for grabs, or it's in the air. So I'm not sure exactly how it would
Right.
play out, but in Fallout, they make it clear that she steals it, that it's rigged.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So he's going to win, but they're going to contest it and just prolong it, just like what Trump was trying to do, right?
Oh,
And they're just going to
interesting.
keep going and going. And they're going to do their own January 6th. You get what I'm saying? They're going to do their own insanity.
Yeah, but they'll call it peacefully. They'll call it peaceful, even though everything will burn. But yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's actually a very likely scenario that would be supported by the predictive programming. But there's no way that
Yeah.
it just goes away quietly. We haven't seen the whole thing come into fruition, and we're talking decades of predictive programming leading up to what we're about to collectively experience. And one more thing, the Civil War movie, the Captain America Civil War. I haven't seen it yet, but the trailer has Harrison Ford as the president getting shot at and surviving. So Civil War is still in the script.
Yeah. And let me just say this. Oh my goodness, man. Every time you bring up something, I forget because I'm trying to listen to you.
Well, you're saying that the left,
Oh my
essentially, that they're going to try to stop it the way that Trump did, a January 6th, but coming from the other side, kind of a.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Now I know. So who has all the momentum, Tim?
It depends on who you ask, because people seem to say that it's Harris, and Drudge reports that they look like Trump's going on his way down. But to me, I kind of get the idea. I don't know. The general consensus they projected is that Kamala has it. What do you think?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you listen to, I'm just saying, if you listen even to some truth channels, they'll tell you that Kamala won the debate. You know what I mean? But obviously it was all purposely done. I mean, like I said, he was playing kid gloves with her, in a way, and trying to make himself not look so. Because that's why he didn't look at her. He didn't stare at her once. Did you notice that he didn't look at her once?
Yeah, I noticed that he was very non-confrontational, and afterward he said she did a good job, and I kind of think that it seemed like he was almost conceding, but there's something here. Okay, just really quick. The new Captain America is actually called Brave New World. It was gonna be New World Order, so it's not Civil War. But anyway, just pointing it out, it had the trailer that came out concurrent with the Trump head wound, where it was clearly the case that this is a president being shot at and barely surviving. It was just meant to mirror that, but I'll have to watch it.
Yeah. But anyway, my prediction is, well, by the way, like I said, this doesn't have to come true, this part, but my other two real predictions do. But sorry, that right now they're setting it up, like I said, for Kamala to look like she's going to win, because all these crazy liberals think that literally she's 100 points ahead in their eyes. You know what I mean? And so what I'm trying to say is the fact that they think like that is going to shock them on election day. They're going to lose their mind, Tim. Those liberal, and of course, listen, even the ones, it's not so much liberals, the ones that are paid to act crazy. You know what I mean?
Well, I have to say, in 2020, I had the same feeling. Like, I was watching these big Trump rallies, and then Joe Biden's speaking to a parking lot with 8 people, and it was just consistently shown that there's this groundswell of support for Trump. There are these MAGA convoys, miles and miles of trucks with MAGA flags, and there was obviously a lot of energy in that direction, and then nobody cared about Biden. So there was this cognitive dissonance that was induced by design, by creating this perception that it was a shoo-in, he was going to win. So you might be right on this, because I watched the debate, and objectively speaking, I would say Trump won because he had more laugh lines, and he wasn't just like robot reading off of a script. Like it was actually, I thought it, in my view, but everybody that I've talked to since has just said, yeah, Kamala destroyed him, and they're all really under that impression. So yeah, they could be setting them up for a major disappointment.
Right. That is exactly what they're doing. And the reason that most of these people think that Kamala did good is because everyone was expecting her to do horrible. So whatever she did looked great. You know what I mean? So
Add on to that,
that's the reason.
Taylor Swift endorsed Harris. So if Harris doesn't win, then all the Swifties are going to burn down the Capitals.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That they're setting it up to make it look so like she's a shoe-in, the creature, and when they don't win, they're going to lose them. I'm telling you, it's going to be the January 6th all over, but this time the Democratic version of it. I mean, you know what I mean, the liberal version of it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, very
Yeah.
interesting. Well,
Yeah.
the cat thing though. You said you had some thoughts on the cat thing though, because that story has been blamed for bomb threats shutting down Springfield City Hall, and some people are saying that there's some kind of ground zero happening at Ohio right now, and it's all because of this stuff with cats.
Yeah, and the cat is the initials, the Antichrist. Okay, so, and I told you that Elvis and Trump are the Antichrist. You know, the one, Elvis is the unseen Antichrist. Trump is the image of the Antichrist, but he's the Antichrist in the flesh. But anyway, the Antichrist initials is TAC. That's what the cat is backwards. You know, TAC.
Oh,
But
yes.
yeah, but and that's why you have the SeaTac Airport, the beast out of the sea. That's what that is. SeaTac. TAC is the Antichrist. Get it?
Yes, and beast
Yeah.
out of the sea. The beast in the abyss. The last caller mentioned the 9/11 reflective pool, which is the abyss, and the creature in the abyss. Symbolically, we saw it with Godzilla. Represents the nuke. So I still see that as a huge thing. This whole build up to the atom bomb, and to me, it's a guaranteed going to happen. Seattle, it's going to have to happen because Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan, the foreshadowing. It's just like with everything else. We call it predictive programming for a reason. It's there.
And the Ohio thing it's a perfect setup. So you have J.D. Vance talking all this craziness and making everyone hate the Republicans, whatever, because nobody likes him. That's what I'm saying. I didn't even know, not even the Republicans like him. You know what I mean? He's not a likable person, I got to be honest with you. And his wife reminds me of a Kamala Faith. So nobody likes J.D. Vance. So him picking him, again, was purposely done, because he could have picked somebody that would have livened up the party, but he picked somebody who's, just whatever. We know the reason he picked him, because he's from Ohio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so the Ohio thing is just big in this whole story, and you've been talking about it for some time, and there's been a lot of focus on the area between Butler and Palestine, Ohio, and you're the one, I think you mentioned it, or someone in the chat, we've been talking about this Tyreek Hill. Do you have any thoughts on this Tyreek Hill dolphin being pulled over before the game?
Well, you know what? That's what I was calling you about, but I forgot now what it was about. But the only thing I could tell you is I've noticed a lot of the names of a few of the names had the TY in it. Tyreek, Tyrone, whatever you were saying, Tyrone and Tyree Nichols and Tyreek Hill. It's all TY. And you know what TY equals? TY equals 45.
Oh, interesting. 45, because, Tyreek Hill. Or Tyreek Hill. It sounds like Tyree Kill. They cloned Tyrone. The TYRE is code for the martyr in this Masonic death cult. And interestingly, you had, is it Lamar Hamlin, or what's his name?
Damar Hamlin.
Damar. So Damar Hamlin, who we all talk about, he had this death on the field, and he comes back, the number 33 all over it. Well, he was just involved in an injury.
The tackle.
The tackle.
Yes, the tackle. Yeah.
So I'm looking at the guy that he injured, number 1, and he's got a cross on each side of his face. So you have a double cross kind of thrown in
Yes,
there.
the double cross. Well, that's his name. His TT is his name.
Oh, okay, very interesting. TT.
Yeah. Tua Tagovailoa, whatever. So the guy who came back from the dead knocks out the guy who's gotten 3 head wounds now. Tua Tagovailoa, he's had 3 concussions now.
Interesting. And the number 3 is hugely encoded into the whole Damar Hamlin story. So this has got to be some kind of a major hoax. The TT thing ties into Titanic, Twin Towers, Manhattan, the 2 T's, Seattle. So there's, this is all heavily encoded. His name is Tua
Tagovailoa, yeah, something like that.
Okay, yes. Sustains concussion.
Yeah. Like Tupelo. Tupelo. 2, you know.
And now one more thing. In this little story, the character, Hiram Abiff, is the architect of King Solomon, and he's concealing the blueprints. And so he's accosted by a group of ruffians who beat him up. And so this is where you get this whole Tyreek Hill, these various Black Lives Matter martyrs are accosted by ruffians, played in this instance by the cops. But the head injury is the key component. So he didn't get his head injured, but he did complain about his knee. And I think there's some significance to the knee injury. But yeah, this is intriguing that it's his 3rd head injury. And I don't know the symbolic meaning of dolphins, but that seems to be something as well. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah, let me see. Go ahead.
That disgusting girl, they call her the Hawk Tua girl.
Yeah, the Hawk Tua, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that whole psyop started on 6/11. I saw it on her wiki.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that I didn't know. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's interesting right there. And Tua, and the name Tua in it. Hawk Tua. Tualova.
Yeah, this was pointed out by Synchromorphs in my chat. He noted the name and he brought this up, and I'm looking. It's like, yeah, 6/11 on the Tim and D channel. That's T and D. Released a video with his Haley Welch. For
Wow, that's crazy. So it was on 6/11, huh? What the heck?
Now, okay, the Hawk also in Stranger Things. I believe that Hawkville represents Seattle. And it has this crack in the earth that opens up, like this earthquake-like thing, and then there's hellfire raining from the sky. But yeah, unfortunately, there's probably more meaning to this person than I'd like there to be, because I didn't want to have to pay attention to her. But yeah.
Yeah, and the Seattle Seahawks, right? Is that what you're saying? Because somebody's
Yes.
mentioning that. Yeah, it's the Seattle Seahawks. And you know, and what's his name? Stephen Hawking is born on Elvis's birthday. Hawking.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, his death day was Albert Einstein's birthday, and they both died at 76. And that was Pi Day,
Right.
2014.
That's right. 73rd. It's the 73rd day of the year. Yeah. But that
Interesting.
has big
Okay.
significance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yes. 73 has a great deal of significance in this bigger psyop. For example, the 73rd second Challenger explodes. And I think that ties into the Challenger and the Abyss, Revelation 9/11. But anyway, everything he brought up has been really on point here. This thing with Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio, I knew that was a big deal. But the fact that it's 42 miles from Butler cements this connection between the Trump head wound and the nuke. And as you've said, these two events are basically twin. They're part of the same psyop, or part of the same sequence. That these things are going to happen.
yeah, man. You know, like I said, there was something I was going to mention a couple of days ago. I was trying to get through, but you didn't answer the phone. So now I can't remember what it was. But no big deal. I'll just wait till the next time if I remember it again.
Awesome.
But,
by all means. Well, thanks for the
all
call.
right.
And if you remember, feel free to call back or leave it in the chat.
All right. All right. Take care.
Take it easy. All right. Awesome. So if you don't know who there's this girl, this woman who was asked some kind of a question for some internet TV show, and these are not safe for work questions. And she said she had this catchphrase, and that catchphrase made her famous. But it was on 6/11, and ever since, it's kind of popped up here and there in the scripting. It's like kind of like that other person who went viral for seeing reptilians on the airplane. But I ignored this psyop because it just didn't make sense that someone like that should become a subject of discussion for anything, as though she has any substance. Then she goes on Bill Maher, who gets really creepy with her. By the way, Bill Maher is a creep. Has anybody noticed that Bill Maher is a creep? That he's like, I saw this episode where he was talking to minors. And he was specifically talking to minors about things that I think were, yeah. Oh, look, there's other people have noticed it. Bill Maher keeps making inappropriate jokes in this interview he did with kids. I'm not going to play any of it, but this individual is out of touch with reality if he doesn't know how crazy he looks. Pretty disturbing stuff. Esteban says she was on Alex Stain. Are you talking about? Oh, yes. That MFer isn't real was on Alex Stain. Okay, she has a podcast called Talk Tua. Yeah, not interested. Lean Dion says she was blown up completely inorganic. Her recent fame is weird AF. It is very weird. And I kind of brought her up too because she was paid a 5-digit payday for going to some Dolphins event. Did you see that? Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Internet reacts to Hawk Tua trending after Miami Dolphins quarterback gets injured. So there's some kind of connection here. I saw her at some event. Here it is. She was wearing the jersey of player number 1, Tua, at a Hard Rock appearance. Hawk Tua girl wears Tua Tago's jersey at Hard Rock appearance. And I believe she got paid a lot of money. I saw, here she is. She seems like a young Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like from the very beginning I thought so, but like she represents, or she sounds like, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. But it's certainly the case that this is inorganic. But here she is supporting that individual. What the hell? Very strange. Simple question, can you answer? Says she popped up 33 days from the 6/11 shot on 7/13. You know, today's kind of a 7/13 in the sense that September 7. Good day for a psyop. Okay, every day there's a psyop. So we were talking about this briefly, Andrew Tate. So Andrew Tate he has outperformed by, I think, 30 victims, Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein had like 36 or so human trafficking victims, and I think the Tates are up to 61 or something like that. I'll get the exact number. But again, this happens as a movie based on, or with a character based on Andrew Tate comes out called Speak No Evil. And the director, as I was playing it a minute ago, was talking all about toxic masculinity. Infinite Plane Radio.
Dude, did you mention Haley Welch's birthday?
Oh no, what is it?
Go look at Haley Welch. Look it up for yourself. I'm not even sure if I got the right one.
7/13.
Can you believe
they
that?
just had her? Okay, so they just celebrated her 22nd birthday on Trump's head wound day. So that's okay. 6/11, 7/13. Very weird.
And she's from Tennessee, where Elvis died.
Oh, there's that whole yes. There's a whole Tennessee code. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Unbelievable. I had to call in for that. I think you mentioned 7/13, and I was looking it up when her birthday was, and I said I got to call in now.
You know,
all right,
okay.
dude,
Thanks for the call.
Go ahead. No.
Anytime from now on, anytime somebody goes viral, I'm checking their birthday, because this is a clue. It's not organic. This is just too coincidental. So there's a connection now between Seattle, this person, the 6/11, the 7/13 date, and then this. This is just beyond coincidence.
Definitely, man.
Thanks
all right,
for the call.
take care. Bye-bye.
And the number 22, what is that? And we've talked about the 22. There's quite a lot there. Thank you for feeding the Crackgwin, Nicotramus. The IPS appreciates the support. Says, I've been depressed about the Insider Magazine delay. Maybe I need a hobby. Well, here's the good news. The good news is it's publishable. The file's ready to go. It's just a budget shortfall. I just kind of had to decide. I'm either going to make it quarterly or I'm going to find a way to fund it. And that's why I went back to my watercolors. And I started a series of Penguinotti paintings. So it will come out. And not only that, by the time it does, the second issue will be hitting the shelves. The latest painting I did, and these are all paintings that are being sold to support the publication, is an 8x10 acrylic on canvas. It looks better in person because it's very textured, and I probably should have adjusted the exposure. This one's monochrome. Cyborg penguin holding a boombox. Again, 8 inches by 10 inches. I have this one on sale. I put a link below. I'm going to be doing these live, a painting per day, until I've sold enough art to order a full 50 issues. So it's going to come out, and it's going to be monthly. Esteban says, did you see the Robert De Niro 22 thing I put in the think tank? I'll take a look right now. I mean, I can point to a ton of things related to 22. Last year especially. In fact, now this is interesting. Wasn't Gabby Petito 22? And we talked about Gabby Petito representing the spring maiden being kidnapped and taken to Hades as we enter the fall. So now we're a week away from fall. Do we have our Persephone, our spring maiden? Gabby Petito was 22. And at the time, there were a ton of references to 22, and I believe it tied into the autumn equinox, but my point being, this is an archetype thing. So I'll continue to dig into this character. Unfortunately, we have to. I can point, Derek Chauvin was stabbed 22 times. You had player number 47 throat slashed by player number 22 in that hockey accident. I believe Derek Chauvin was even sentenced to 22 years, as was the leader of the Proud Boys. But we saw a ton of these numbers. 22. Okay, let's see here. It says Robert De Niro is a clear example that ears grow 0.22 meter. Oh, that's funny. Thank you, Esteban. That is excellent. Robert De Niro is a clear example that ears grow 0.22 millimeters per year. So here we are talking about Robert De Niro representing Trump on the world stage, getting shot in the head as the assassin, as the nearly assassinated xenophobic senator in Machete, as young Don Corleone. So many examples. And then we have the shooting happening after he rants about Trump. And we started looking into all the predictive programming. So we made these connections right before Trump was shot. Now we find this meme where they're talking about his ear. And 22 is associated with it. Okay, so here's some more 22s. RFK was shot with a 22. So now that I think about it, I probably have a full mind map. And I've seen many examples of 22 associated with this theme. But yeah, the ear, fascinating. Slick Rick 333 says Lori Lightfoot has the same birthday as Obama. Here we go. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, August 4th, 1962. You know who else does? And this one's even more notable. Hakeem Jeffries, born August 4th, 1970. And that's because Obama, first black president. Here you have Hakeem Jeffries, first black House minority leader of the House of we're talking about the Democrats, but 8-4. And I heard him speak once, when I first heard him talk, and I'm like, this guy is copying President Obama's cadence. But I don't think this is a coincidence. It's some kind of a definite link here. And with this whole Trump scenario, this head wound thing, Obama is a player in it. And the 8/4 birthday is connected to it, but also the date 8/4 is the 216th day of the year, as JL often talks about. 216 is 6 cubed, or 6 times 6 times 6. Very mark of the beastie. It's also the Phoenix number, according to Pythagoras. So you have Phoenix, 666, tied into it. And we mentioned the TV series Stranger Things and The Boys both having a season finale 4/8, where the Trump character is associated with this assassination theme. Walter says, looks like two different people. Well, that was a long time ago. We'll talk about Robert De Niro. But Robert De Niro plays Travis Bickle, who inspires John Hinckley Jr. to shoot Reagan. So he's been connected with presidential assassinations. And then he plays a senator nearly assassinated after spewing anti-immigrant rhetoric, just like Trump was. So again, this whole Trump derangement syndrome exhibited by Baldwin, exhibited by De Niro, is contrived. And it's because these individuals, they were trying to make you hate the Trump archetype. They're embodying this. And that's why he plays Travis Bickle, the assassin, and then he plays Frank Murray, who's assassinated by Joker, the character's inspired by Travis Bickle. So you're seeing the outcome of it, the actual headshot that's deserved if you take the sympathetic view towards Joker. And of course, Joker represents someone who fell through the cracks. The system failed him. That's why he's mentally ill. The system made him mentally ill. And had he been raised in the same house as Batman, in a wealthy environment with privilege, it wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have been mentally ill. He wouldn't have a gripe against the system. And if you watch Joker, it's all about how he's victimized by this unfairness, the systemic inequities, and how his mom can't get treatment, he can't be treated, so he falls asleep with his gun, and there's a newspaper, "Kill the Rich." And so Frank Murray kind of represents in this everything that's wrong with the system, and he's lashing out against it. So De Niro, as a world stage character, is kind of a cheerleader for hating Trump. Infinite Plane Radio.
Dude, it's Jurassic again. Let me tell you why I'm calling, because I remembered one of the things I want to talk about. Were you the one who showed the Umaga wrestling with Kamala, the wrestlers?
I do recall looking at that, where there was a Drudge headline and it said "Rip Kamala," and this was in I guess it was let me get the year. Was it 2020? Kamala passes away August 9th. So I remember seeing this "Rip Kamala," and then she's announced. So yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, the wrestler Kamala died. That's not why I called. But since you're mentioning that, the wrestler Kamala dies right before Kamala says that she's been chosen to be the vice president.
Right.
And he even had a Kamala for president shirt years ago in pictures, whatever. But that's not why I was calling. They had a wrestling match between this Umaga, it's Umaga, Umaga, against Kamala. And when they were going to see, you really need to go watch that fight and see who wins. Because I asked somebody to tell me, and they said that, because that's what I'm trying to tell you. The predictive programming tells you right there that Trump is going to win the election.
Okay.
If you're going by that.
Okay, this is fast. So yeah, okay. Oh, Umaga. This is funny. Umaga, the Samoan Beast, versus Kamala, the Uganda Giant. Yeah, this is WWE predictive programming. Maga versus Kamala. Fascinating.
What's the date on that? Do you have a date?
Let's see if I can get the exact date. Okay.
If you can give me the data.
I'll have it here in a second. Okay, it won't take me long to come up with it. It looks like a very well discussed fight on. Okay, here we go. Monday Night Raw. I see. It looks like May 20th, 2020.
No, that can't be right because
No, here we go. Here we
he
go.
died.
June 26th, 2006.
Okay, 626
Yeah.
06.
62606.
Okay, cool. But go ahead. So what's your thoughts on that? Because if you MAGA beat Kamala, then that's telling you that MAGA is going to beat Kamala. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is rather unequivocal. So this is fascinating. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have to look at this. I'm going to watch the fight and listen to the rhetoric, but we know what WWE is. And as far as I can tell, predictive programming just shows that Kamala's in the picture and there's a big dispute. Civil war is forecast, indicated in all of it. So this leans toward Kamala being defeated by MAGA.
Yeah, before I get off the phone, I just want people to know that's not what I'm basing my decisions on. I hate wrestling, but I have nothing to do with it. But I just saw that on somebody else's channel. That's why I had to. When I saw that those two were fighting, I was like, wait a minute. I said, if Umaga beat Kamala, then that means, because I don't know if he won, but someone said that he did, because I didn't watch it. But yeah. But anyway, I'm going to have to check it out too. All right, bro.
All right, thanks for the call. And second
Bye-bye.
call, this is great information. Thanks again.
All right, bye.
Yeah, so Hawk Tua Girl turned 22 on 7/13. Okay, let's take a look. Today I learned Kamala versus Yamaga actually happened. I'm going to scroll through and see if there's any notes in here. Okay. I don't see anybody saying who won. I'll find out here briefly who won. By the way, wrestling is scripted. A lot of people didn't know that before, like 1989. But presidential elections aren't. No. Those are real. But before Kamala and Umaga could fight, Umaga's manager intervened. Umaga defeated Kamala in a match the following night on Raw in his last appearance for the promotion. And it says the Samoan Beast. Okay, so Maga and Beast is tied into this as well. You got the Beast in there. Very interesting. The Beast is yet to come. Water Walking, GJ Jesus Us says, Yokozuna sat on Kamala's face in the WWF. Nicotrama says, I'm placing my bets on Garrow's prediction for the presidential race. I feel like I'm cheating. Well, I'm only being objective here, and I can't say, I mean, I could give my opinions, but at this point, I'm only going off of the predictive programming for a reason, and I have to stick to it. And in Fallout, it's rigged after the Trump headwind. In DMZ, there's a split. So half the country is following her, the other half's following the other guy. In Civil War, Trump is in the White House. If you recall, he's in the White House when the black female soldier shoots him. So it's kind of like, in a way, it could be he wins, but it's contested and it's not accepted and it is a split. But it doesn't look like it's going to be as easy as saying he's definitively going to win. To me, it looks kind of like he could occupy the White House, but it wouldn't be something that the other side agrees with. So I think that JL is onto something here. Rise of the Swifties. Yeah, Lean Dion says, what about the president who said a woman will be president when the other dies? So that's Gerald Ford in the Herbert Hoover Library. And the day Herbert Hoover died, Kamala was born. Nicotrama says, this is why I feel he'll win. Too many years invested in his character for him to be a two-time loser. I think so too. For the 8-4 and 6-11 events to occur, he has to maintain his relevance for another year. Can he do that if he doesn't win? No way. Not unless there's some kind of major transformation in how this whole thing works, like something breaks. But I can see him winning and the inflated expectations of the left turning into the excuse for a conflagration. And also remember, too, Joker 2 comes out on 10/4. Joker preceded 2020's riots. It represents the left, Antifa, whereas Batman represents the right. And ever since the Batman movie, it's been like MAGA activism, MAGA getting violent, MAGA psyops. And the BLM has been quiet. There haven't been any significant peaceful protests as of late. But Joker 2 was, remember this, Joker 2 was being filmed outside the courthouse when when he was arrested, 4/4, 2023. Joker 2 was being filmed right outside. So Joker 2 being filmed outside, an angry mob associated with Joker, 10/4 happening. They wouldn't be angry. They won't be angry if their candidate wins. So it kind of looks like, that's why I don't want to make predictions, but the predictive programming says Kamala's a player in this. Mango Penguin says, we've been taught to hate very well thanks to our belief system. Psychomorphia says, if Trump doesn't win, the Antichrist script is canceled. Good point. Good point. Unless, I mean, cause like I would hate to think that they're so terrible that the best they could do for the Antichrist head wound was a unbelievable ear wound. But I'm looking at Fallout as a great predictor, and Fallout definitely has this rigged narrative thrown in there. Starboy Devoid says Kamala's. Oh, really? So the Ugandan giant. Or well, let me bring this up. Kamala, WWE. Okay, say professional wrestler. His name is James Harris. Fascinating. James Harris. So the wrestler named Kamala, his real name is Harris. Born May 28th, died August 9th. Fascinating. So there's yet another connection to solidify. Now, what was the other guy's name? Umaga. Let's look at Umaga's birthday just because we're on the topic. Anything significant here? I'm looking at March 28th, December 4th. James Harris, though, that's big. Lean Dion says, I think the ear wound was the one, weak AF. Yeah, what if that was it? That was all they could pull off. It's like, that's a letdown. It would be like if 9/11 had only involved a few fires on a few floors. Like, where's the spectacle? Where's the shock? But that's what the buildup is. Like, last night, and I think the eye wound has to happen for a lot of reasons. In fact, I didn't finish it. I was reading Knife by Salman Rushdie, who had the 33-year fatwa, $3.3 million hit on his head. He gets stabbed over the course of half a minute, and his eye gets stabbed. And the night before, he's talking about the trip to the moon and the symbol of the bullet in the moon's eye. And that was a symbol that was shown at the beginning of the Paris Olympics. So in his book, he talks about how he was staring at the moon the night before his eye was stabbed, and he thought of this image. So that's just one example. I'm just suggesting that this eye wound thing has to happen. So then last night, we're talking about Newsbenders, the play, and how the actor in this play also shows up as Dr. Evil, Donald Pleasence. So this Donald Pleasence character is the president in Escape from New York during World War III. So you have Donald, president, World War III, but then you also have him in the James Bond series, where he's the evil villain, Blofeld. And as such, he has the injury on his right eye, the scar. So this is a further indication. President Donald, World War III, escape from New York, wound on the eye. And then if you go back to Escape from New York, Kurt Russell's character has, his name is Snake, and with Trump you got the whole snake thing. And by the way, when he smeared the ketchup on his face, it looked like a snake tongue on the side of his face. But here he is with an eye patch. So the eye patch theme is also tied into this collection here. Lee Dion says you can't ignore the ear wound was 6:11 and 33 seconds. Syncro says the Antichrist script has a lot more to go if they use it, turning on Israel. Yeah, and something else to think about too. The Palestine, Ohio mushroom cloud. So it's in East Palestine, Ohio. Train derailment. And the train's derailed because of deregulation. Trump did it. That was the narrative. Now, with Boeing, it's almost like with the train derailment. Every other day, trains were being derailed. Now, Boeing, it's the same thing. But I saw this narrative out there about Boeing and crony capitalism, which is basically, crony capitalism flies high in Boeing's anti-trade allegations. But the idea has been that they have somehow managed to game the system by getting favors and avoiding certain regulations. So that's what crony capitalism refers to, cronyism, suggesting that they're profiting by having a close relationship with government, and also that they're able to bypass regulations. So they're able to be, they're able to rise above the competition at the expense of consumer safety, parts falling from the sky, planes crashing. So like the sinking of the Titanic, the derailing trains, the falling planes, tie into this general story of this thing's collapsing under the greed, under its own weight, capitalism. But now look at East Palestine, Ohio, the crash, and you have this Oppenheimer-worthy cloud, and just the symbolism of it. You have Palestine, nuke. And then 10/7 happens a few months later. And of course, the heart of it all, also I think highly significant with regard to Palestine and Israel. But this is in Ohio, and it's 42 miles from where Trump had the head wound. And now, of course, this area is center stage for whatever's happening now with this recent drama regarding the immigrants, the illegal alien invasion, as J.D. Vance is describing this wave of Haitian immigrants as some threat. And then the most important 42 miles in American politics, the stretch of geography. And why is that? It says, what is often referred to by coastal elites who have never driven through this very Americana scenery is flyover country, filled with people who work hard and stay because there's value to them being intertwined. Anyway, this region is filled with people who have given up on hope, is what this article says. These people are overlooked. So they're really emphasizing this 42-mile stretch. I'm pointing out the number 42 is inseparable from this bigger script involving the Turner Diaries, the nuke, white nationalism, and race war in particular. We were just talking about the Turner Diaries and Turning Point USA and the whole race war narrative. And now we have J.D. Vance, and as Mike Rothschild put it, they're attempting to kick off as a flashpoint for a race war, something here in Springfield. Quay says, hello, fellow auto hoaxers. Thank you for joining us. Oh, Seeker Morpheus, thanks. Lots of major 9/11 predictive programming in Escape from New York. I saw some of your work on that in the server, and I'll have to bring some of that out. But again, you have more connections. Trump, 9/11, President Trump, World War III, eye wound, even news benders. You know, I think it was earlier tonight I mentioned that we should follow some of these actors like we do the metascripters, the actual writers, the directors, but the actors and their different roles, because it always leads to something, like De Niro does. Well, this Donald Pleasence character also seems to be connecting a lot of dots, from newsbenders to Escape from New York with 9/11 predictive programming, to his name, Donald, being president during World War III. Quite a lot there. We had a caller bring up the book Chronic City, which I'll look into it. I have this app called Hoopla, and it is sort of like Audible, but it allows you to log into your local library catalog, generally free. And so I've been finding a lot of books that way for anyone who's interested. But I'll check out Chronic City. It's about New York. As the caller described it, it has a lot of interesting predictive programming for things that we're talking about now. And it has something in here about astronauts being locked down because of space mines. And I was noting the parallels between this and Megaopolis, which has a similar theme with Russian satellites falling from the sky. And then as that's released, there's a story about a Russian satellite exploding into 100 pieces, necessitating the ISS astronauts to lock down. June 27th, a defunct Russian satellite breaks up into 100 pieces of debris in orbit, forcing astronauts on the ISS into lockdown. So this was a dead satellite, right? Dead. Now, Megaopolis is about New York, and in the original story, it had some 9/11 predictive programming in it. It had some 9/11-y scenes that he took out of the script because of it. So you have 9/11 stuff and this whole thing. And in one of the articles about this, he describes how it starts off with an old Russian satellite. And if you look at the trailer for Megaopolis, it says, this is what happens when an empire comes to an end. And it shows this Russian satellite falling to Earth. So the connection here is, as you're watching this in the film festivals, and you're seeing the scene of an old Russian satellite falling to Earth, there's one right above your head that is just blown up into 100 pieces. Too coincidental to be true. There are no coincidences on the world stage. And of course, as we've talked about, it has the destroyed Statue of Liberty imagery, which we saw at the Paris Olympics, which opened up with the French Revolution song played by Gojira, which means Godzilla, which is a nuke reference. And beside them, you had Marie Antoinette holding her own severed head, which connects to everything here because the movie Napoleon that just came out, which I just started watching, opens up with the decapitation of Marie Antoinette. And that's, of course, Joaquin Phoenix, who's the Joker. So now you have Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker, as Napoleon, French Revolution, people having their heads chopped off. It seems to be aligning with where we are right now. Okay, I'm going through your comments. Observing Reality says, Summer of Hate, anyone? It's just in the rhetoric. They're overemphasizing the right-wing memes coming from X in order to scapegoat Elon Musk for destroying world peace, for bringing about the apocalypse. It's all going to be pinned on Musk, and even more. Because remember, I've been talking about how this big story unfolding about the right involves the nuke, but it's going to have to involve some collusion with Russia to get their hands on the weapons of mass destruction. And right now, as we speak, all of the right-wing, the big names in the right-wing griftosphere are facing allegations. DOJ alleges Russia funded U.S. media company Tenet, linked to, and there's all kinds of names you would recognize. We talk about Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Putin's puppets, And if you look at these individuals and who they let on their shows, it's kind of clear that this is by design, that this was meant to come out. That this isn't like, oh, they're taking down Tim Pool and he wasn't planning on it. No, the Tim Pool character is going to be linked to this. And by the way, the company that they're talking about that was being funded from Russia is called Tenet, which is a movie by Christopher Nolan. And it has connections to the Russian massacre in the Crocus Theater. 2020 movie Tenet. Christopher Nolan, produced with his wife, Emma Thomas. Synchromorphia says Pleasance was the shrink in Halloween. Veteran English actor, Dr. Sam Loomis. Fascinating. I'll have to look into this. Very interesting actor. And then he's the guy from the shadowy government organization that recruits journalists to write the news in advance. Gojira, okay. Gojira, it's Gojira. Well, however it's pronounced, isn't it the Japanese version of Godzilla? I call him Godzilla. They were playing a French Revolution song, but their very name invokes Godzilla, and Godzilla is the nuke, the beast from the sea. And they released Godzilla right after Oppenheimer came out. Godzilla has been considered a filmographic metaphor, an allegory of nuclear weapons in general. In the earlier films, he was a nuclear-spawned creature. Godzilla, or Gojira, is a giant lizard with inflamed skin and incandescent radioactive laser power gained through nuclear exposure. Now, I also connect Oppenheimer's bomb to the beast, the destroyer in the abyss from Revelation 9/11. Barbieheimer was hyped up last year because those movies came out together, Oppenheimer and Barbie. And I called it Babylon and the Beast. And that the color of Babylon and the Beast is pink because Babylon red, the Beast white in symbolism. But this connects to Godzilla as well because in Godzilla versus King Kong, A New Empire, EMP, by the way, EMP Empire is emphasized in like Frozen Empire, as in Nuclear Winter from Ghostbusters. So EMP is also code when you see it in Empire. But in the Godzilla versus King Kong, the more recent one, which I haven't even watched yet, Godzilla X. Oh, it's called Godzilla X. So that's even another interesting connection here. So Godzilla X, the New Empire. So we're talking about X and Disease X and the nuke being attached to the right-wing domestic violent extremist contingent. But in this movie, Godzilla's spikes turn pink. That's one of the things that I think ties into this. Godzilla's pink atomic breath upgrade comes from absorbing Tiamat's energy. On Korra, I don't know why people hate the pink color of Godzilla, because it's just gamma radiation. So they've made this connection with the color pink in Godzilla and radiation. And if you remember last year, or pretty much over the last year, all the instances of pink, like the pink skies, the pink King Charles painting, there's been a number of instances here, but yes, so Godzilla's pink color also connects with Barbieheimer and the merging of Babylon and the Beast. This is all just deep symbolism, but color symbolism is also a huge part of it. Quay says, the wokies have been spewing a lot of hate at me lately. It's both disheartening and fascinating. Talk about a mind virus. Well, when I say woke too, I know we refer to the left woke, but I look at the Trutherville as alt woke. And we had a caller who's angry or who is expressing certain sentiments that he wouldn't have in his head if he didn't take a position. And if you're taking a position in the political horseshoe, you've entered into the realm of non-skepticism. And we're not there. I'm not falling for any bifurcated psyop. And the cats, the xenophobia stuff, anything with fear attached to it is generally a hoax. And the fear only acts if it only works if you don't have enough information to counteract it. In other words, the fear is a byproduct of ignorance, and the media fosters the ignorance by design. Like, they don't want you to know. They don't want facts to get in the way of their narratives. It's just amazing how easily people fell for the story, and as a result, they're collectively being blamed. Think about this. Anybody sharing cat memes is now being blamed for bomb threats, supposed bomb threats, that resulted in schools in Ohio being evacuated. Now, every school child who's been evacuated from a school in Springfield is going to know that the MAGAs are after them, that the evil racists. So they create these stories. They create these dramas. And by basically getting triggered, you're playing into it. Because you're actually saying the things and believing the things that they claim lead people to make bomb threats. Like, I'm not going to be honeypotted into anything like that. Guilt by association is one of their tactics. Jennifer Reeve says it's the 28th anniversary of the death of Tupac. Happy hoaxiversary. Okay, and didn't he have that album? It was I gotta pull up the album cover. We were just talking about Black Christ iconography and symbolism. The Dawn Kill Illuminati, the 7-day theory. So I was thinking about the kill Dawn. And of course, there he is crucified. And then, of course, Tupac. There's actually quite a lot that JL could probably call and fill us in about this. Machiavelli, many people have said that Machiavelli endorsed the idea of faking one's own death. But yeah, there's a lot of Antichrist symbolism built into this. Definitely worth looking at again. It happened in Vegas. Trump is in Vegas today, isn't he? The day's not over yet. Yeah, right now he's doing a rally in Vegas. Plain Decoded says, Umaga was a Samoan, so is Tua. The Kamala wrestler died from COVID. Starboy Devoid says, at WrestleMania 23, Vince McMahon hired Umaga to fight Donald Trump's guy Bobby Lashley. The losing billionaire had to get their head shaved. Umaga lost, so Trump shaved Vince's head. That's interesting symbolism. Okay, WrestleMania 23. I knew somebody who worked for WrestleMania at that time, and I had a WrestleMania 23 folding chair. I had an arrangement where, because they threw away their mats, and those mats were then folded up, and at one point I had a number of them sent to me to do murals. But I remember looking then and noticing then that it was replete with symbolism, and this person who was part of crew described to me how they use big green drop cloths and how they could fill stadiums. That from home, people see full stadiums. But in person, it's nothing like that. And we see this all the time with Trump rallies, Kamala rallies. They're always saying, oh, they're faking their audiences. But we have to remember that World Wrestling Entertainment has been deep faking us from the very beginning. And it's a mistake to think that the mainstream news hasn't been using the same tactics and tricks all along. It's just one of them are a little more honest about it. So Bobby Lashley, born July 16th. Quite a lot you could say about that date, interestingly. Apollo takes off, JFK Jr. dies, Eyes Wide Shut's released. Trump had a speech in California. The mayor said they had 42,000 residents. Lean Dion says, Lil Uzi Vert, Lucifer, the pink tape. Okay, I'm glad you brought that one up because there's some art associated with him. Here it is. So let's take a look at this. Lil Uzi Vert, who has the 24, reverse 42, $24 million diamond in his head. So here's an image from his pink tape, which came out this year. So this is one of the things we were looking at as we were examining the significance of the color pink. over the last year. And as I was pointing out, they've associated it with Godzilla. We've associated Godzilla, of course, with the nuke and radiation. So take a look at this image. You have Lil Uzi Vert with the crown of thorns, or it's like the Statue of Liberty, the Liberty spikes, a corona-like head. And behind him, you have a mushroom cloud that's pink. And then it's the American flag in the background. So it's like America getting nuked on one level. Interestingly, though, the cloud actually looks like a brain, which would make the eyeball there the pineal gland. So there's that. And then, of course, the crown, the corona, the symbol of the halo. A lot of these things, like the crown of thorns, symbolically, it can represent the awakening, the third eye. So like the mind being blown, the nuke here. That's just all metaphor, visual symbolism here that depicts the annihilation of the limited ego, as the third eye represents a greater synthesis. The third eye, of course, associated with the pineal gland right here on the nuke. Very interesting. But the color pink, again, is what we were pointing out. And then we had the thing with the pink skies, the Aurora Borealis. We were talking about this earlier this year, back in May. The northern lights, everything turning pink. What causes the sky? Oh, here, most of Europe is glowing pink. No coincidences. It seems like messaging. It's interesting to look at some of the big symbols or the concerted messages, like the monkey god. Concurrent programming, again, it's just so consistent. It's not anomalous. We're constantly picking things up. I haven't looked into it today, but the Tyreek Hill story is reflected in Rebel Ridge. Tyreek Hill says he wants the officer involved in the traffic stop gone. We're looking to see here. The officer who detained Tyreek Hill had been suspended 6 times. Hill's agent calls for the officers to be fired. So I'm trying to determine where this is going, and I'm wondering if anybody else had commented, or in the mainstream anyway, on the Rebel Ridge situation. Because it's such an obvious... Oh, look, here we go. Rebel Ridge in the NFL. And he's, of course, a Dolphin. Tyreek Hill speaks on an incident with police officers after the Dolphins win an opener. Rebel Ridge in the NFL. Fascinating. Again, Rebel Ridge came out like a couple days before. So when that movie came out, somebody mentioned it to me, and we were on the lookout. Like, what's going to follow this? Because psyops follow art. Life doesn't imitate art, psyops do. And psyops aren't real life. But real life does follow psyops. That's kind of how it works. So the art precedes the fake news, and the fake news is followed by changes in society. That's how their programming works. This thing with Kamala Harris, the wrestler, Kamala, last name Harris, and the Umaga connection, very fascinating. We have a WWE prophecy here that shows Trump winning. We talked about Speak No Evil, inspired by Andrew Tate. And apparently, the performance by James McAvoy is based on Andrew Tate and this concept of toxic masculinity. Not a coincidence that Andrew Tate is like basically under house arrest, and it's about to get worse. I've been following that story closely, and it's an Epstein level takedown. In my opinion, and he's going to be extradited to the UK, I think. It's getting uglier. But what are the chances that a movie called Speak No Evil about Andrew Tate comes out today? Now, it's not literally based on Andrew Tate, but the character is definitely modeled off of him.
World. These kind of demagogue figures that come in. I don't need to name any names. They've existed in England, in America. They're still around. Who kind of, come in and say, I'm the maverick. I'm the person that...
Okay, someone just informed me. Travis Cloud says the actor for Rebel Ridge is John Boyega from They Cloned Tyrone. Oh, that's interesting. So this is getting more intriguing now. Okay, this is a solid connection. He's in They Cloned Tyrone. Oh, and he dropped out of Rebel Ridge. He was meant to star in it. So They Cloned Tyrone. Tyreek Hill. They Cloned Tyrone, Tyreek Hill, part of this body of symbolism about the Black Martyr cult BLM. So you have the name Tyree built into Hill, Tyreek Hill, and Rebel Ridge being connected. And so this actor who was in They Cloned Tyrone was going to be in Rebel Ridge. Fascinating. So let's go ahead, and since we're doing this now, let me go ahead and take a look and see when this actor was born. Nothing too wild here. Great find. IFEPA says, I'm going to tell my kids that's Jeff Bezos. Yeah, Jeff Bezos, Dr. Evil. Jeff Bezos is definitely one of these world stage characters. They merge so many. It's useful to do character studies on him. Oh, by the way, this was pointed out by someone on Twitter. Trump is at 7.7 million followers and 70 following on Friday the 13th as he's in Vegas. 777, interesting for some reason. Let me play this clip. This is Jim Carrey mocking people who believe in moon landings. This is several years ago. Of course, Jim Carrey was in The Truman Show where he was being observed from, well, the control room was the moon.
I'm sorry, Jay.
I'm sorry. I could see that how that would affect your Christmas.
I made that whole thing up.
What?
I'm sorry. I guess I just wanted to seem interesting. I guess there's a real danger of that on this show.
But there's a pressure.
Well, yeah, people come out and they've run out of anecdotes, you know, and they just start making stuff up.
Yeah.
Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
There we go. Talk about a fish story. And just for reference, in The Truman Show, the moon was meticulously constructed to appear real. It's used as a light to create a daytime effect, but also symbolizes the watchful eye of the producers constantly observing Truman. Another connection to The Truman Show, President Truman, 33rd president. And, of course, the bombs associated with him. Infinite Plane Radio.
Dude, it's me again. Listen, you said it was Tupac's death anniversary?
Yeah, his death anniversary, hoax anniversary. And I said that you have some info on Tupac.
Oh, okay. Let me just tell you this. With the Tupac connection, let me just tell you this real quick. So, Tupac's name connects to the fact that Elvis was born in Tupelo, okay? And Tupelo's name, it's completely loaded with connections, just the name alone. But I'm not going to go into all that. Same thing with Tupac. Tupac, the name is loaded also, but because it's too hard to explain over the phone. But what's interesting, because like I just said, it connects to Tupelo, Tupac, Tupelo, right? And it sounds like the number 2, and Elvis was a twin, and him and his twin were born in Tupelo, right? Elvis and his identical twin, which died at birth, right? So the Tupac, Tupelo, right? You got that?
Yes.
Okay. So Tupelo's area code is 662. Okay, and if you add the number of the Antichrist, which equals 154, 662 plus 154 equals 816, which is Elvis's death date. So the only number that matches, I'll get to why I'm bringing that up. The only number that matches with the Antichrist to get to Elvis's death date of 816, So if you added 154 plus Tupelo's area code 662, you get 816, which is Elvis' death day. And why am I bringing that up? Because Tupac, which sounds like Tupelo, he was at the club. He was leaving the club 662 that night.
Okay. Club 662. Now, okay, and it was closed down not long after the death of Tupac Shakur and is now a cafe. Oh, so Club 662. Fascinating.
Yeah, so that's the connection. For sure, it was a death ritual for Elvis, for sure, because it's got the Tupelo, just like Nancy Pelosi. Sounds like Tupelo, Nancy, the B side of the sea, and, you know, I'm not going to get into the whole connection.
It is run by Suge Knight, former CEO of Death Row Records. And let me bring this up. So Tupac's name was LaShawn Crooks. The guy that shot Trump is Thomas Crooks. So you also have a Crooks connection, the name here, to put in here.
Yep.
And then Don Kill Illuminati. So the guy who shot Don, name is Crooks. And then, of course, the album here, I was just looking at the cover where it's like this crucified Tupac, is the Don Kill Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory. So again, Crooks, Don Kill Illuminati, something there.
Yeah, there it goes, man. Look, I have to call in just to tell you that part. I can't take. Before I get off, you were talking about Kamala again. Let me tell you this. Now, I don't understand this wrestling thing because I don't know whether they do this normally. But do you know how old Kamala was when he wrestled Umaga that day?
No.
Don't look it up.
I won't look it up, but
Don't look it.
I'm not going to look it up. But how old
Take
was
a
he?
guess. Take a guess. Just give me a range of what you think both of their ages were.
I'll guess 42.
Both of them, were they both around 40? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I would guess.
Yeah. Well, that's what I would think, that they're in the same age range somewhat. Kamala was 56 years old.
What?
And Umaga, Kamala was 56, and Umaga was 33 when he won.
Fascinating. Okay. That's a big age difference and what a wide range. But
yeah, and he died 3 years later, the Umaga. Kamala outlasted him. Kamala died 14 years later. He died 3 years later, the younger one at 36, which is the 666 connection. But he was 33 when Umaga, the MAGA dude, wins.
Fascinating. 56. Yes.
All right, dude.
Okay.
All right.
This is all really good info. Thanks again. This Kamala character is something. Thanks. All right. I mean, there's so much to add into this. Think about that. His name is actually Kamala Harris. If you look at his real name and his stage name, we're talking about the death anniversary of LaShawn Crooks, Don Kill Illuminati, and of course the connections, the Tupelo connections he brought up, and then Thomas Crooks shoots Trump. Estevan says the most ungangster rapper of them all. Listen to his early interviews. Yeah, and I think his mother was Black Panthers. So to me, it all just looks like secret society psyops. That he was born like second generation psyop family, like just there's something there. A total construct. I don't believe for a second that he was actually killed. I think there were other stories as well about he got shot. He crawled through the sewers or something. The whole thing's just a myth. He's a myth. He's basically a character they've created for mass consumption, a folk hero. And was it Lenin who was it who said, when they need a hero, we will supply him? Something along those lines. Whenever the people need a hero, we shall supply them. Oh, Albert Pike. Infinite Plane Radio.
Listen, I'm doing it on purpose because the guys are hating me for calling back. But Trump was in Rancho Palos Verdes today. And do you know what's important about Rancho Palos Verdes? Because he has a golf course there. He made some kind of speech today there. Weren't you mentioning something about 42,000?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And he's
Yeah.
out.
Do you know what makes that important? That place is cracking in half right now.
Really? Okay. Cracking in half.
Check that. Well, check that out. See if because the electric the gas company has shut down everybody's gas and they're never turning it back on again. People are having to bring in their own ways of cooking because they're not going to ever put it back on ever.
Yeah, it says here that he calls it solid despite nearby landslides. So it's falling apart. He's talking about the land movement crisis at his golf course. Fascinating.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because I'm telling you that that they're going to crack Washington State. Remember, so that's what I'm saying. We'll see if this Rancho Palos Verdes, if it gets worse. Who knows?
Seattle.
But anyway, all right, bro. Bye.
Seattle Kraken. As we've been saying, Seattle Kraken. And I want to make the point too that in Stranger Things, which has the 4-8 code with the Trump guy getting shot, Stranger Things, the ground literally cracks open, and this Kraken narrative has always tied into the nuke, the beast from the sea. It's been tied to 11/3. It's been tied to Trump. But the idea of the land cracking, it's highly significant. It's tied into this bigger story.
And I did a whole show on this show called La Brea. La Brea. And I used to live on the street, near Street La Brea when I was a kid, when I first came here in the United States. That whole show was about sinkholes, that whole show. And they said that Seattle was the main one in that show.
Really?
It was called La Brea. Yeah, I did a whole videos on it. If you go back and look at my older videos, you'll see that.
So let me ask you this. Because on 9/11, they do a controlled demo, and they dress it up with TV. Do you think that the geography around Seattle is such that they could conceivably fake a nuke and actually have verifiable destruction in the land, like a crater? You think they could quite literally beyond just the surface destruction, but do you think there might be something bigger, like perhaps even using real bombs to destroy stuff in areas that have been cleared?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't believe that it's going to be a psyop. I think this is an actual blood ritual that's going to happen. And unless they are able to, because this is one of the scenarios I was trying to come up with years ago, which is if there is some type of hostage situation in the Space Needle, and they said that they had a suitcase nuke or some kind of crap, then they would clear out all the area of Washington State, and then maybe they can set it off and nobody gets hurt. But I just do not see that scenario happening. But it's a possibility, I'm saying. But yeah.
Well, regardless,
I don't know.
I'm thinking though, whatever they do, it's 100% certain they can fake EMP, they can simulate it, and if they can cut off communication, they can cut off skeptical criticism and let people trigger each other. So I have no reason to think that when they do something, the world's not going to go to chaos. Look how easily they hit the reset button in 2020 and everybody had to play, everybody had to participate. So whatever they're going to do, I do think the Seattle thing that you're describing would necessarily be bigger than 9/11 and would have global implications. And with nukes, you open the door to fallout, you open the door to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but I'm not looking for, that's what I'm saying. When this event happens, I'm not looking for chaos to ensue in the other states. I'm looking, people are going to be in shock. That's the main thing. Just like 9/11, people were in shock and awe. They weren't people weren't fighting each other on that anymore. You know what I'm saying? It was more of a, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to figure out.
In fact, I do remember that. And I recently heard some Fox News pundit saying, I sometimes wish we could go back to those days after 9/11 when we had unity. And I thought, that's psychotic to suggest that it was better back when we were collectively traumatized. But that was a facet of it. Everyone was traumatized. People did get close. There was all kinds of emotionality. It was a big emotional
I think that's
thing.
what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's going to happen. The people are going to be kind of getting back together, trying to say, let's fight back. Let's get, And then what happens is all of a sudden Trump gets his head wound right after that, on August 4th, after the 6/11 event. And then that's when all hell breaks loose, with Trump getting his head wound,
Fascinating.
Anyway.
Well, hey, this is
right.
intriguing, and again, appreciate the multiple calls because this
Bye-bye.
has all been valuable information. All right, thanks again.
All right, bye-bye.
Fascinating. WWE predictive programming is something that I don't watch wrestling, never really have, so I rely on other people, and it goes deep with these scripted matches containing messaging. Umaga versus Kamala. And the wrestler Kamala's real last name is Harris. So Umaga versus Kamala Harris. June 26, 2006. There may be more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to this wrestling match on my minds.com/infinite plane society. And I'll make it a point to watch this match later today. Spoiler alert, it's fake. Whatever outcome there is scripted. I'm talking about the election, not the wrestling match. It is significant that today Trump is in Vegas on the death anniversary of Tupac. Because again, Tupac, you have Crooks, Don, Kill, or Illuminati, Kill, Don. So Crooks, Illuminati, Kill, Don, anniversary. And September 13th, Sept is 7, so it's also very 713-y. So it is significant he's there. Not suggesting anything's going to happen. Okay, Diana South says, stay home or stay safe together. We're all in this together. Yeah, I remember now all the togetherness. Even in 2020, you had people coming out and banging on pots and pans. Oh, there were so many sickening displays of emotionality. It was like, I just remember so many terrible scenes. The dancing nurses were that's when we bottomed out. The nurses are dancing. Like, oh yeah, they're so stressed out from everybody dying and not having enough PPE that they have to blow off some steam. So they start doing these dances. That's what people said. We were like, the reason why these hospitals are full of dancing, twerking nurses, pole dancing on UV poles even, banging on bedpans like they're drums, playing with I saw some videos where nurses were playing inside of CAT scanners. They were clowning around in hospitals like they had access to the pharmacy or something and were just set loose. Twerking nurses. How does that make any sense? We have so many examples of nurses with body bags just clowning around, making music videos. And people were giving us excuses. They were saying, oh, it's because they were so stressed out they had to do that. So I'm trying to remember. The last time I worked at a job that was excessively stressful, it was a boiler room telemarketing gig. And myself and all my coworkers were highly stressed out trying to reach quotas. And we took frequent breaks. Many people smoked. I might have back then, I don't remember. Coffee breaks. But I don't recall at any point any of us suggesting, hey guys, we're not meeting quota. Do you guys want to dance it out in the parking lot? You want to choreograph some dance to blow off some steam? Like, that never happened. Wayne Dion says, nurses twerking to Pan's flute. Yeah, there's a whole body of symbolism here with the panic, the pandemic, and Pan, the Greek god, the god of panic. And of course, the connection being is that Pan has the flute. And when hearing the flute, travelers would go into hiding. In other words, quarantine. They would go hide because of the terrifying nature of this deity. And the word syringe comes from syrinx, which is Pan's flute. So you cannot really separate syringe from Pan or panic. So there's the needle, the fear of the needle. I used to call the anti-vaxxers needle phobes because there's this intense fear attached to the needle. And the pandemic, of course, was all about I call it the panic-demic because it was about the fear virus, the mind virus. Not a coincidence that the One World Trade Tower looks like a big syringe. And during its construction, it was operating like a flute. The wind was blowing through it. And people said they heard the ghosts of 9/11. And they said, no, the building's just a giant flute at this time. No coincidences here. But the symbolism there, of the symbol of the needle, it has multiple levels. Ties into everything. Ties into mind space, inner space. Your circulation has a connection to orbit, low Earth orbit. They make these connections, so you correlate these things. They want you to correlate mind junk put out in space in the commons above by billionaires, people who are too rich. They want you to connect that with mind viruses. And just like we need to clean up low Earth orbit, we have to clean up our collective commons of cyberspace. These are all connections they make. So you've got the booster. Well, boosters also refer to rockets going to space. There's a reason why the astronauts did celestial immunity in space, where they're getting their vaxes at the same time that space junk hit the arm of the space station. So it's like it got punctured. So they made this correlation between, again, celestial immunity, space junk creating a problem, getting vaxxed. These are connections they make in this bigger story in the zeitgeist as they paint it up. But all these narratives are there to program you, get you to accept certain ideas. But it also, to get back to what Lean Dion had said, you have Pan and the nymphs. And so the dancing nurses were kind of like the nymphs in this play. All right, let's continue. Catching up on your comments. Elephant Tusk says, we need an IPS dance video. Yeah, we're so stressed out by all the psyops and hoaxes, we're going to have to choreograph something. Elephant Tusk says, stay home, save lives, watch CNN for further orders. Well, there was a PSA last year that went out in New York. And this PSA said, when it happens, go into the middle of your house and watch TV for further instructions. They actually have these 3 steps. It's like, stay home, stay safe, stay tuned. I'll see if I can pull it up.
What do? There are 3 important steps that I want you to remember. Step 1, get inside fast. You, your friends, your family, get inside. And no, staying in the car is not an option.
Well, so not having a house is not an option. Good to know. Those of you who don't yet have, like the homeless populations, or people who live in their cars, and there are many, you're toast.
You need to get into a building and move away from the windows. Step 2, stay inside. Shut all doors and windows.
Now, this is the Nuclear Preparedness PSA, and this was 2 years ago. And since this has come out, we've been given other PSAs in the form of movies, like Fallout, like Oppenheimer. But step 3 is the most important. More important than getting inside and staying inside, make sure you all obey step 3.
Away from your body. Step 3, stay tuned. Follow media for more information. Don't forget to sign up for Notify NYC for official alerts and updates.
There you go. Stay tuned. Follow media. Now, they didn't say follow only left-leaning media. And this is going to be interesting to see when it happens, because you can understand how they split it with the pandemic, where the right didn't believe it, so they didn't want to stay home. But Fallout is very unifying. You can't say, I don't believe in Fallout, in the same way you could say, I don't believe in this particular strain. Fallout has a more tangible presence. They could easily fake it. I'm sure they could make it much more believable, a threat. And if you haven't seen The Humanity Bureau with Nicolas Cage, this is from 2017. And the long and short of it is, you're not allowed to have Geiger counters. You're locked down because of radiation, but you're not allowed to have the tools that will allow you to find out what's really going on. And he gets his hand on contraband, and he finds out that people are being locked down for no reason. Imagine that. Fascinating premise. But it's, again, this is pre-2020. Very interesting hypothetical situation. Lean Dion says, I love the motivational, authoritative voice and tone. Yeah, and that whole piece, though, that whole little segment there is just to get us ready. It's just to prepare us for what's to come. That's predictive programming. Nukes are fake, but they need you to believe in it. Don't go to the window so you can't see anything. You're going to rely on secondhand accounts. You're going to rely on the footage they show you. You're going to rely on likely what I think Christopher Nolan, I think, is probably the one who's we should credit with having faked it when it happens. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Andrew Tate, predictive programming in the movie Speak No Evil that came out today. We talked about how Springfield, Ohio, has been shut down with bomb threats because of the anti-immigrant rhetoric from Trump and Vance. So mind viruses from Disease X. We talked about this Dolphins player who was damaged by Damar Hamlin and the symbolism attached to his name. We covered Boeing stuff falling from the sky. And then this latest thing, Umaga versus Kamala, predicted programming for the upcoming election in the WWE. Fascinating line of inquiry, which we'll go into that and talk about that more tomorrow. So I have to also bring this up before we go any further. This is too non-coincidental to skip over. This is posted by Synchromorpheus. He said, since the debate, I've seen lots of jokes about Elf, an alien who eats cats. So if you remember, there was this furry alien on this old TV show, and yeah, here he is eating a cat sandwich. But, as Synchromorpheus says, what no one has pointed out is that the woman who ate the cat is named Alexis Farrell. Okay, so that's got to be hoaxy. So this is the one they're talking about who ate the cat in front of neighbors. Well, so you have the illegal aliens eating cats. Elf, alien eating cats. Her name, Alexis Farrell. This has got to be a hoax because the name Farrell sounds like feral, as in a wild animal. Or if someone is feral, so that's a wild thing to do. So her name is Farrell. A-L-F. Very interesting connection there. Yeah, the surname Farrell, existing in a wild or untamed state. Middle name is Tell Lie. Good find. Good find. Nice to see people making jokes about this still. It's just like, they don't even care if it's real. It's really just entertainment value. I think that's what it is. Last year it was, again, what really blows my mind here is how they can be freaked out about something totally insane. Then they forget about it, and the next current thing is relatively tame. It was save the children from blood trafficking Democrats or blood drinking Democrats. Adrenochrome, was it? They're trafficking children. And now they're indoctrinating children into gender ideology. Well, that's not the same thing as they're harvesting blood. And then last year is all about the barbecue, the name of the Haitian gang leader. It was about the cannibal gangs from Haiti coming over here on boats. And this year, they're just eating cats. Like, we can't have more than one current thing at a time. I get it. The public attention span can't handle it. But it's very incongruent to go from one very big deal to not so big a deal without addressing the big deal first. It makes me think that they're not serious, that truthers aren't serious. One more point. Leave the World Behind's computer screen in the very last scene, again, says 9/17/24. So leave the world behind. Anagram for Behold the End War Live. It ends with a nuke scene, and the character Rose is in the basement or in a bunker watching it on TV. Behold the End War Live. We're all going to be at home in our home FEMA camps, our little living room bunkers, watching on TV the end war as it unfolds. IFEPA73 says, coincidentally enough, the Post ran a story on the young boy who played the son in that show, Elf, who died 30 days before Trump got shot. Plain Decoded says, they weren't eating the cats, they were starting a tennis racket business. Well, I think it's a great study in auto-believing. People who automatically accept the narrative that's targeted at their side and then just shares it and runs with it. And I get it. The memes are funny. The memes of cats with MAGA hats and AR-15s. But they're putting truth to the side, skepticism to the side, and they're just rushing with, I call it truther bait. And they're just taking it all the time. I want to say thanks again to all of you who have supported the channel. Nick Fingar, thanks for buying the book. We have the tabloid coming out here very, very soon. And a lot of it is funded by art sales. So I want to say again, thanks to those of you who have been purchasing the art I've been creating recently. Lots of watercolors and much more to come. And so if you subscribe to the main channel and hit the bell, I will be painting when I have time randomly earlier in the day to announce the later live streams. I can't always send a notification, but if you hit the notification button, you won't miss it if we spontaneously go live. Latest track by Symbia. I'll put a link below.
I don't believe in chemtrails. I don't live in truth or veil. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill. I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams out of hooks and chills. I stepped off the world stage and I've moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind age. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I've stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading out of hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading out of hoaxology. Nothing can bother me out of hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading out of hoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believer, to become a new creation on the raft of receiver. Standing on the sword of truth, I stab the backs of deceiver, demanding burdens further proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading auto hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading auto hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, auto hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading out of hoaxology, suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't argue with the bots about the next current thing.